You wake to a kitchen that smells faintly of coffee and unfinished plans. On the counter, envelopes gather like little confessions, bills you promise to open, a credit card statement you scroll past, a spreadsheet you close without saving. You have learned to move through these small betrayals with practiced calm, a distracted smile to your partner, a joke about money that keeps the edge from showing, a habit of convincing yourself that wanting more is dishonest. In the mirror you study a face that has memorized compromise, and somewhere beneath a polite shrug, a quieter longing watches you with patient sorrow. The city around you hums with other people's certainty, someone hurries past with a designer bag, a neighbor talks about an inheritance over morning light, but you have built a theology of scarcity, wealth as danger, comfort as compromise, abundance as moral hazard. You recite the reasons like a litany. You were taught to believe that chasing money will steal your soul, that neediness is weakness, that security is vanity. So you hide. You skip budgets, you avoid the banker's office, you let opportunities fade rather than risk becoming someone you don't recognize. Then, very gently, something interrupts. Not thunder or a scripture verse shouted from a rooftop, but a voice like the hush after a bell, a line in a sermon that lands like a hand on your shoulder, a neighbor's unexpected kindness that rearranges your assumptions, a whisper in prayer that refuses to be silenced. It isn't condemnation, it is invitation. What if prosperity is stewardship, it asks. What if fear has been guarding you from your purpose, not protecting you? The question lodges in your chest, awkward and luminous. You catch yourself listening. For the first time in a long while, you imagine different mornings, bills opened with curiosity, money handled with intention, resources used to serve, not to hoard shame. The camera lingers on your hands, on the unopened envelopes, on the small tremor of possibility. If this quiet question stirs something in you, stay with it, like this moment if it moves you, and subscribe with the bell so the next prompt, when the confrontation begins, finds you ready. You wake to the same quiet ache, but now the nudges are no longer whispers lost beneath denial, they arrive as scenes you cannot ignore. At the grocery counter, the cashier tells you about a small miracle, how an unexpected refund kept her lights on, and you feel the old dismissal stir, then falter. In the parking lot, a friend corners you, eyes steady, and says, "You talk about purpose like it's separate from profit. What if money is the language that moves good into the world?" The question lands like a stone in still water, and ripples of unease reveal truths you had been avoiding. That week, an envelope arrives, a check for a consulting you forgot you were owed, modest but precise. You stare at the numbers as if they might tell a story. At church, a quiet woman you barely know squeezes your hand and admits she tithed from a small raise, and doors open that never would have without that act of faith. The pattern refuses to be coincidence. Small miracles accumulate, each one pointing toward the same impossible idea. Perhaps scarcity has been an idol, and abundance a tool. You find yourself in the kitchen, bills spread like a map of past choices, and you ask aloud, am I protecting myself from harm, or am I hiding from responsibility? The answer is not thunderous, it arrives as a calm conviction, stewardship. The thought settles, money is not the thief of soul but a resource entrusted to you. Your breath deepens. Fear loosens its grip just enough to let a new question through. If I steward well, what could I build? Who could I bless? A conversation with an older mentor cuts sharper. Fear makes us small with what we have, she says. Faith asks us to multiply it. Her voice is gentle but immovable. The choice before you becomes visible not as a moral puzzle but a practical test. Continue the habits that keep you safe in scarcity, or accept a covenant with abundance that requires discipline, generosity, and accountability. The tension tightens into a crossroads. You can already sense the cost of inaction, missed opportunities, quiet regrets, and the possibility of a different witness, a life where resources serve purpose. If you want guidance on taking that first intentional step, one that honors your values and invites real growth, stay with me. Like this message if it stirs you, subscribe and ring the bell, because what comes next will ask you to act on what you now believe. You sit at the kitchen table with the light low and the world narrowed to envelopes and a coffee gone cold. The room smells faintly of citrus cleaner and the evening paper, and your fingers know the weight of each bill as if they were stones. You tell yourself the old story: money corrupts, wealth warps the soul, needing is weakness, and for years that story has been your sanctuary and your prison. When the phone rings, you let it go to voicemail. When the bank email pings, you close the laptop and breathe until the thought passes. There is a small, embarrassed relief in avoidance, like pulling a blanket over a bruise. Across the counter, the clock keeps moving. A child's drawing taped to the fridge, a house with windows that glow like lanterns, catches your eye. Something tugs at you, a gentle ache that you have practiced ignoring. You remember the faces of people you love, the patient partner who says, "We'll be okay," the teenager who asks for guidance and whose questions you answer with half-truths. You have been calling stewardship selfish, you have been calling safety sinful. Then, in the hush between one breath and the next, a voice slips in, not loud, not condemning, but soft as a hand on your shoulder. "What are you protecting by staying small?" it asks. You startle, and for a second you think it is your own conscience, or the neighbor's late-night TV. The voice doesn't accuse. It names a possibility. What if abundance is a tool for love, not a trap? It continues, and the way it places the word love feels like an offering, like water held out when you are thirsty. You find yourself answering, out loud, to the empty kitchen. "I don't know how to do it without losing myself," you admit. The confession lands in the room and open space. Memory slides in, the time a stranger paid for your meal, the unexpected extra at paycheck's end last year, the precise timing of a help that felt, absurdly, like grace. These small threads begin to look less like accidents and more like invitations. If that quiet nudge touches something in you, stay with it. There will be practical guidance and gentle challenges ahead to help you shift. If this moment resonates, give it a like in your heart and be ready for more. Subscribe, ring the bell of attention, and keep walking with me. Because the interruptions deepen, and soon a sign arrives you can no longer ignore. The morning light slips through the blinds like a patient hand, drawing thin maps across the kitchen table where you sit with last night's uneaten toast and a folder you have avoided for months. The envelope inside is small, ordinary, an overpayment refund you had forgotten about. For a moment you feel the old reflex: deny it, put it back, pretend it never happened. Then a memory surfaces, soft and unmistakable, a voice, not loud but certain, saying, "This is not to keep you safe from loss, but to teach you how to steward more." You stand, the room smelling of coffee and rain, and hear your neighbors shout through the hall. "Hey, I found this, your wallet." A man you barely know hands it back, cash untouched, a receipt folded like a bookmark with a scribbled verse: "Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." It stops you. The words are not condemnation, they are a mirror. Later, in a tiny cafe, a friend leans forward, eyes clear. "You always said money corrupts," she says. "But what if it's how you use it that matters?" Her question lands with the weight of a truth you've been dodging. You answer, quieter than you'd expect, "I don't want to lose myself." She reaches out, places her hand over yours, steady. God doesn't want to take you from yourself. He invites you to give yourself better tools. Small miracles keep arriving: an unexpected gig that opens a door to steady income, a church volunteer who shows you a simple ledger, a child's drawing taped to the fridge labeled family bank with coins glued like promises. Each one chisels away at the fortress you built around fear. The subtle voice grows less mysterious and more like a counselor: try keeping an account. Try saying yes to one thing that scares you. You feel the tension tighten: continue the old habit of hiding, or step into a new covenant with abundance that still honors your values. This is not a slick conversion but a slow reclaiming, of purpose, of generosity, of responsibility. If these moments resonate, if you too want practical, faith-centered ways to steward what comes, give this a like. Promise yourself one small commitment: subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss the next steps. Ahead, the test draws closer, the choice that will demand not just new habits, but a new heart. You stand on the sidewalk as rain begins to scatter across the city, each drop a question you have been avoiding. Across the street, a small bakery lights a neon sign, "Open." Inside, the owner, a woman you once counseled years ago, leans over the counter and calls your name with a smile that seems to know every hard lesson you've hidden. You saved a corner of my life, she says, handing you a loaf with a brown paper kindness. You taught me to price with dignity. Her words land like warm bread. Suddenly the idea of money as poison cracks into something human, useful, alive. Later that evening you sit at your kitchen table with a stack of unopened statements. A call from your sister interrupts, her voice soft, almost afraid. We might need your help, she admits about her small business collapsing, but only if you can see it as sharing, not a risk. You feel the old defensiveness rise. What if giving means losing everything? But beneath it, another voice, gentle, persistent, asks, what if refusing is the bigger loss? Small miracles begin to stitch the argument together. A forgotten payment arrives as an unexpected refund. A stranger returns your dropped wallet with a note, do not be afraid to receive what is meant for you. At a community meeting, an elderly pastor speaks about stewardship with such simple conviction that you almost laugh at yourself for ever equating faith with poverty. Stewardship is sacred, he says. Prosperity is a tool for service. The phrase echoes, and you catch the shape of a different future, one where money amplifies purpose instead of eroding it. Inside, your chest feels tight with grief for opportunities squandered, college funds not started, a neglected health plan, the silence at family gatherings when money comes up. Each memory is a small ledger of fear. The cost of avoidance is no longer abstract, it has faces, names, and missed birthdays. Yet when you imagine changing, the fear is still there, thinner now, like a shadow that recedes when you step toward the light. You find yourself at a crossroads, continue the habitual retreat into scarcity, or accept a covenant with abundance that asks for accountability and courage. The choice trembles in the air. If you feel this nudge, if the scene of a returned wallet or your sister's plea has stirred something, like this moment as an act of permission for yourself, and subscribe and ring the bell to join the next step, where we begin the practical practices that make this new covenant real. The kitchen light is low when you finally sit down with the stack of overdue notices. The paper feels heavier than it should, as if each line carries a memory, a promise broken, a fear dressed up as morality, a lifetime of saying no to comfort. Outside, rain taps like a metronome. You breathe, let your shoulders drop, and for the first time since this story began, you ask the hard question aloud, what am I protecting myself from? There is no thunderous answer, only a softer presence that has been edging into your days, a still, steady insistence that money is a tool, not a verdict. You remember the conversation with Mara, standing under the laundromat's fluorescent hum, when she said, stewardship starts with small acts. Give a little, track a little, tell the truth about where you hide. You try it, you mark one expense, you write one honest line in a journal, you set aside $5 and place it in a jar labeled possibility. It feels ridiculous and terrifying at once. A phone call interrupts at dusk, a neighbor returns a tool you forgot to lend months ago, and with it comes an unexpected apology and a $20 bill slipped into your palm. The weight of that bill is not the point, it's the whisper that follows. Small miracles are invitations, not coincidences. You find yourself smiling in a way that feels unfamiliar, like a habit unlearned but not lost. That night, in a dream, the voice returns. You were never meant to carry all of this alone, it says. In your dream you are at a river, the current carrying coins like driftwood. You reach, and instead of hoarding, you cup your hands to redirect the flow toward a small sprout on the bank. When you wake, the sprout's image stays with you. Prosperity is life, not accumulation. The next morning you sit with a pen and a quiet promise, to learn, to record, to give, to be accountable. Fear still tightens your chest when the numbers don't add up, and old thoughts hiss that this is vanity or greed. But there is a new tether now, purpose. You imagine the people you could help, the projects you could start, the peace that steadier choices would bring. The tension builds toward a choice you cannot postpone, an invitation to act that will either prove your courage or teach you where courage must grow. The real test is coming, and with it, a path toward receiving what you have long resisted. You sit at the kitchen table as morning light slices through curtains, coffee cooling beside an open notebook. For years you let receipts pile like small accusations, the bank app an enemy you avoided. Today, the same numbers stare back, but something different stirs, a gentle insistence you can no longer ignore. The voice, soft, not condemnatory, reminds you that resources are gifts meant to be tended. It doesn't tell you to become someone else, it asks you to be the truest version of yourself, faithful with what you have. Across the table, a friend who has walked this path before leans forward. Start small, they say, handing you a worn envelope. Decide what matters. Give first. Track the rest. You watch ink form columns: income, essentials, generosity, growth. Each entry is a small ceremony, a ritual that reorients your fear into attention. The first time you write down a giving line, your hands tremble, not from loss but from unfamiliar freedom. When you send a modest gift to a neighborhood program, the gratitude you receive back is a mirror. Money used with intention multiplies meaning. A scene unfolds later at a community center where a child beams because a scholarship now exists. You feel the weight of choice shifting under your feet. The old story, that wealth only corrupts, echoes in a memory, but new evidence accumulates like daylight across a room. Stewardship restores dignity, not defeats it. God's whispers come in practical nudges: an invitation to meet a financial mentor, a nudge to open a savings account, a prompt to review subscriptions. Each small obedience chips away at the old fear, and each small success teaches you a new grammar of abundance. Night finds you reflecting, ledger closed but alive in your mind. You realize prosperity is not a private indulgence but the capacity to serve, to seed, to bless. If this resonance reached you, let this moment matter, let a simple light carry the hope forward, and subscribe with the bell so you won't miss the practices that turn intention into habit. Tomorrow, you will face tests, temptations, setbacks, and a harder choice that will demand courage. The path ahead asks for one more appointment with truth. Are you ready to take it? Morning light pours over the kitchen table, turning a worn ledger into something almost sacred. You sit there, fingers brushing yesterday's avoidance, the unopened statement, the shoebox of receipts, and instead of the old panic, there's a quiet curiosity. A gentle voice, the same one that nudged you through sleepless nights, leans close. Money is not the enemy, it says. It is a language of stewardship. You breathe, and for the first time in years you answer aloud, teach me. Across the room, the neighbor knocks and slides a small envelope into your hands, a returned favor, an unexpected refund, an apology paid back. The world, it seems, responds when you stop hiding. You open the ledger, light catching ink as you write not only numbers but intentions. This is for security, you whisper, marking a column. This is for giving, you write beneath it. The act of naming feels like prayer. Later, outside the small church where you once sat and promised you'd never love money, a friend, calm, steady, sits beside you on the low stone wall. Stewardship is a practice, not a verdict, she says. Start with small rituals, a monthly check-in, an automatic transfer to savings, a pledge to give a little away. You listen as if these are instructions from someone who knows the map out of scarcity. Her words are practical, not pious, and they land with surprising grace. You begin to experiment. You set up a tiny automatic transfer, label it purpose. You draft a simple budget that honors both needs and dreams. A small investment class you took in the evening sharpens into confidence, each concept turning fear into strategy. That evening, as you close the ledger, your heart is steadier, fear has not vanished, but it no longer runs the house. This is the turning point, where principle becomes habit, where God's messages move from whisper to daily discipline. If this moment resonates, promise yourself you'll tend it, tap like as an acknowledgement, subscribe and ring the bell to walk the next steps with us. Ahead, you'll learn the daily practices that keep this covenant alive and the deeper purpose they unlock. Morning light finds you at the kitchen table again, but this time the stack of unopened envelopes is smaller. The coffee is cooling beside a notebook where you've written a plan that feels more like a promise than a list. You remember the old voice, fear dressed as protection, whispering that money would rot everything pure. Now a softer voice answers, stewardship doesn't seize your soul, it frees it to serve. You look up, startled as if someone spoke aloud, and realize the voice has been in the margins all along, in the way a neighbor smiles when you offer help, in the small miracle of a client paying on time, in the courage that brims when you say no to impulse buys. You read your numbers, not as judgment, but as territory to tend. A friend drops by, bringing the raw honesty of a life also once circled by scarcity. You speak without shame about budgets and giving, about the small joys of chosen limits. You're changing, they say, tentative and curious. You admit you are, because you've learned the language of abundance, responsibility, gratitude, and intentionality. Together you laugh at old rituals, hiding bank statements in shoeboxes, and then make a new ritual, a weekly check-in where you celebrate progress and recalibrate without blame. There are setbacks. An unexpected bill arrives like a storm cloud. The old fear surges, slick and persuasive. For a moment you almost retreat. Then the voice, calm, steady, reminds you of the covenant you made with yourself, to steward gifts, not hoard them, to let prosperity serve purpose. You breathe, call the utility company, rearrange the plan, and find a way through. In the process you discover something surprising: courage grows when practiced. Generosity follows naturally. You give a small gift to a local shelter and feel richer for it. As the day closes, you stand on the porch and watch light spill over the neighborhood, ordinary, unflashy, enough. This is not the end of fear overnight, but it is the beginning of a new covenant, to listen, to act, to receive with humility. If this message touched you, promise yourself one small step today, share this moment, like what moved you, and subscribe with the bell to keep walking this path together. Tomorrow, you will meet the final test, a choice that will show if stewardship has truly become who you are. Morning light spills across a small kitchen table where you sit with a mug cooling at your elbow, a notebook open, and a stack of receipts that used to feel like accusing witnesses. The room smells faintly of coffee and something else, possibility. A gentle voice, neither thunder nor alarm but steady as breath, breaks the old pattern: start where you are. Name what you have. Steward it well. You whisper the word stewardship like a vow and begin, slowly, a list, a plan, a promise to God and to yourself. You call an old friend who once faced the same fear and, over the phone, he laughs and says, "Money isn't a test of your character, it's a tool for your heart." The line between sacred and practical blurs as you set aside a small gift for someone in need, then earmark a portion for learning, courses that sharpen skill and dignity. When you sit with the numbers, they no longer command shame, they ask for care. The ledger becomes a map, the envelope system a ritual that honors intention. Outside, the city hums, a busker's violin, footsteps on wet pavement, and inside something shifts. A neighbor returns a favor with a fresh loaf of bread and a check for a babysitting week you didn't expect. It's small, yes, but it feels like an answer, a sign that when you choose faithfulness, doors unlatch. You feel fear knock, then notice it is softer, curiosity peeks in where panic once lived. You begin to negotiate a fairer salary at work, not from desperation but with the quiet authority of someone who knows their worth is not measured by scarcity. A moment of prayer is not a plea but a conversation: teach me to multiply what you entrust. You find discipline in daily gratitude, courage in accountability with a trusted partner, and freedom in generosity that tastes like healing. The wise voice returns, gentle and practical: prosperity ordered to purpose heals both heart and world. If this scene moved something inside you, if it stirred hope, let that movement be honored, press like with the same sincerity you brought to your ledger. Promise yourself more: I will bring you clear, compassionate practices, templates, prayers, and steps that make this inner work practical. Subscribe and ring the bell so these messages arrive when you most need them. In the final act, you'll see this covenant lived out in a single, decisive choice that will change how you receive and give. The moment is near. You stand in the quiet of your kitchen at dawn, a single lamp casting warm light on a stack of papers you no longer fear. The rooms you once avoided, bank apps, envelopes, conversations about giving, now feel like familiar places of possibility. A voice, gentle as wind through an open window, settles beside you: you were never meant to run from abundance. You were meant to learn how to carry it. You answer out loud, half to yourself and half to the world: teach me. The reply is not a thunderclap but a sequence of small mercies: an unexpected client call, a friend's honest advice, the calm that comes when you write a budget with prayer on your lips. Walk with me through the final scene. You meet with a mentor in a sunlit cafe who leans forward and says, "Prosperity is hospitality, of your gifts, your time, your resources." You feel the old fear rise, then dissolve as you remember the faces you will bless, the child who will get extra tutoring, the neighbor whose lawn you'll mow, the ministry you'll support. Stewardship becomes ritual, weekly check-ins, gratitude ledgers, tithes given with expectancy rather than apology. Each practice is a promise kept to yourself and to the source that nudged you awake. There is no miraculous overnight transformation, only steady apprenticeship. Money becomes a tool that expands your capacity to love, to serve, to create. You find joy in accountability, humor in mistakes, courage in choices that honor both your values and your future. In the quiet that follows, you whisper a thank you and feel, for the first time in years, abundance as a companion, not a threat. If this journey touched something true inside you, give it a like. Let that small, honest gesture be an offering to the change you want. Subscribe and tap the bell so the next message arrives like a timely nudge, practical and gentle, ready to help you steward what you receive. The next conversation will teach you 3 concrete practices to multiply what you have without losing who you are. When you're ready, come back, there is more grace waiting.